Hi there. My name is Asa Leonard. I just graduated from Knoxville High School, and I actually wanted. You were talking earlier about a series of voter reforms in terms of voter registration, automatic registration for like 16 and 17-year-olds when they turned 18, stuff like that. And that was really interesting, and I support that. What I'm curious is where you stand on what's becoming a popular subject in getting rid of or reforming the electoral college, and how that relates to a popular vote system, and whether you think that those sorts of systems would harm rural communities like Knoxville, or whether they would help the country as a whole, including helping rural communities like Knoxville.
Yeah. Great question. Thank you for it. So I go back to the very premise of the electoral college, which in some part is premised on the original sin of this country. That our wealth was built on the backs of those that we kidnapped, that our country at the time kidnapped from West Africa, brought here in bondage, and as slaves ensured that we would ultimately become the greatest, the wealthiest, the most powerful country on the face of the planet. Now, when we were writing the Constitution and deciding on apportionment in the House of Representatives, those same slaves were counted as a fraction of a person, so that rural, agricultural, slave-based states could have a greater representation in the House of Representatives. The Electoral College proportions were also based on that same premise and same fractionalization of a human being who was held in bondage. So I make the case that the very structure of the Electoral College and representation at the outset of this country was racist. And it's very hard for us to explain to our fellow Americans how the victor in the last presidential election got 3 million fewer votes than the loser in the last presidential election. I think a way to address this is to ensure that, at least at a minimum, that the Electoral College votes in a given state are awarded proportionately, not a winner-take-all system, which would force the nominee from the Republican and the Democratic Party to campaign in every state. You wouldn't write South Carolina off, you wouldn't write Massachusetts or California or Texas off, because you'd be trying to win some of those Electoral College votes. And to answer the last part of your question, I think that would force us to go to every part of every state, including urban centers and rural communities alike. So I think that's an improvement upon a flawed system and gets us to a better place as a country. Thanks for asking the question. Appreciate it.